Yeah, wow. Yeah, so new. And my favorite and the interview and it was so I admire the good move. And you, the the move. You do.
Iron Man 2. What to know? Critics' consensus. It isn't quite the breath of fresh air that Iron Man was, but the sequel comes close with solid performances and an action-packed plot. Read critic reviews. Movie info. With the world now aware that he is Iron Man, billionaire inventor Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. faces pressure from all sides to share his technology with the military. He is reluctant to divulge the secrets of his armored suit, fearing the information will fall into the wrong hands. With Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Rhodey Rhodes, Don Cheadle by his side, Tony must forge new alliances and confront a powerful new enemy. Audience reviews for Iron Man 2. More amusing antics directed by Jon Favreau. Mickey Rourke shines brightly. Sanity Assassin. Super reviewer. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty wrong with Iron Man 2. But after watching for about the third or fourth time, I couldn't help but enjoy the hell out of the film. It's nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. It's action-packed, filled with timely humor, and great character development, even if it does have a pretty weak villain. In the next line of villains with the same abilities as the hero, Mickey Rourke stars as Ivan Vanko Whiplash, a man with his mind set on vengeance for what the Starks did to his family. It's hard. Iron Man 2. Action-adventure sci-fi. With the world now aware of his identity as Iron Man, Tony Stark must contend with both his declining health and a vengeful madman with ties to his father's legacy. Robert Downey Jr. through the years. Storyline. With the world now aware of his dual life as the armored superhero Iron Man, billionaire inventor Tony Stark faces pressure from the government, the press, and the public to share his technology with the military. Unwilling to let go of his invention, Stark, along with Pepper Potts, and James Rhodes at his side, must forge new alliances and confront powerful enemies. Anonymous. Did you know? Trivia. At around 47 minutes, the photo of Ivan being arrested that Tony Stark views in his research is an actual media photo of Mickey Rourke being arrested on a drugs charge when he was younger. Goofs. At around 3 minutes, a newspaper on a stand says Stark takes reigns at 21, should be Reigns. This is a running gag from Iron Man 2008. Crazy credits. There is a scene after the closing credits. Agent Coulson arrives in New Mexico and locates a crater in which lies the Warhammer Mjolnir. This is in fact an alternate version of the same scene from Thor 2011. Alternate versions. Mainland Chinese release obscures Vanko's nationality by reversing all Russian references on the soundtrack. For example, the word Russia comes out as something like Asher, and Siberia as Eurybias. The subtitles and the Mandarin dubbed version simply delete these references altogether. User reviews 991. At first, when I heard about a second installment, I thought, I was unsure in it, because Jon Favreau is relatively new on the director's chair, so could he pull off another classic superhero movie? The answer is simple yes. I saw it in its opening day and the theater was full. I went along with a few friends, and all of them loved it. Here are some things. News. The Marvel movies Debrief, Iron Man 2 recap, Legacy, and MCU connections. Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. suffer from difficult second album syndrome in the plot-heavy third MCU installment. This article comes from nhgkgjgvnb. It contains spoilers for Iron Man 2 and the wider MCU. After Iron Man's decent word of mouth and box office success, it earned a respectable $585 million worldwide. The fledgling Marvel Cinematic Universe seemed to be off to a solid start, and a sequel was pretty much inevitable. Keen to capitalize on old Shellhead's newfound popularity, the studio fast-tracked Iron Man 2 as the MCU's third chapter. With Marvel hoping to replicate what made the first movie such a winner, director Jon Favreau and star Robert Downey Jr. were quickly tempted back for a second outing. Everyone else duly followed. Well, everyone apart from Terrence Howard, who was swiftly replaced by Don Cheadle amid varying reports of on-set disagreements, contract squabbles, and salary disputes. Next 360p 720p HD 1080p HD Auto 360p About gfnutjgv 154690 About gfnutjgv 154690 Off English. Adhering to the well-trodden bigger is better sequel formula, Favreau and company expanded the cast to include some fresh faces and seed some future MCU regulars. Mickey Rourke and Sam Rockwell were drafted in as villains Whiplash and Justin Hammer respectively, while Scarlett Johansson was hired as Avenger-in-Waiting Black Widow and Samuel L. Jackson was given an expanded role, and a 9-picture deal, as S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury. Even rockers AC/DC were tapped to supply a soundtrack of banging back catalog hits. Buy Iron Man 2 on Blu-ray here. The stage was set for a surefire super sequel. What could go wrong? Well, as it turned out, Iron Man 2 was destined to become Tony Stark's difficult second album. It outperformed the first film at the box office, sure, but despite all the upgraded bells and whistles, something just wasn't quite right. Top articles about nhgkgjgvnb 154690. Iron Man 2 single quote's biggest problem is that there's just too much going on. Maybe it's the film's attempts to outdo its predecessor. Maybe it's all the MCU world building that's shoehorned in. But the sheer number of story elements means that almost none of them are given the room they need to develop coherently. So we have, in no particular order, Whiplash's baddie origin arc, the Stark-Hammer rivalry, Rhodey's transition into War Machine, the momentum-sapping throwbacks to Tony's dad, Howard, the Nick Fury-led Avengers setup. That's a lot of plot for one movie. And given the film's scattershot approach, many of these threads frustratingly fall flat. Chief among the casualties is the film's big bad. An eccentric, edgy character actor at the height of his late-noughties renaissance. Having just picked up an Oscar nomination for his turn in The Wrestler, Rourke was an inspired choice to play Ivan Vanko. He's the perfect foil for Downey Jr.'s single quote Stark, the damaged side of the same coin. The bitter, vengeful have-not to Tony's increasingly egotistical gluttony. A vodka-swigging, down-and-out former Soviet physicist with a penchant for exotic birds, Whiplash is a quirky, menacing and, in Rourke's hands, sympathetic nemesis. He's not only Stark-level smart, he's physically imposing to boot, tatted, muscular, and wielding a pair of fizzing energy whips. His first dust-up with Iron Man on a Monaco racetrack is one of the most memorable scenes of the Phase 1 films, if not the entire MCU. More on that below. Get the best of... And then, inexplicably, Vanko is unceremoniously sidelined. "You come from a family of thieves and butchers," he tells Tony in a tense exchange afterward. "And now, like all guilty men, you try to And then, inexplicably, Vanko is unceremoniously sidelined to make room. He only properly comes back into play for the final battle, ensconced in a blandly designed metal suit and dispatched in a matter of minutes. A fate hardly worthy of the character or the act. A potentially great villain is squandered. The film's not all bad, though. Downey Jr. is as charismatic as ever, while Johansson makes a great first impression as the duplicitous Natasha Romanoff. Her acrobatic order takedown of Hammer's henchman is one of the film's Cheadle, meanwhile, quickly Iron Man 2 is a fairly middling entry in the Marvel pantheon, then, a film that fudges some of its best ideas simply by trying to cram them all in. Crucially, Favreau's sequel lacks the simplicity and slickness of its predecessor. While there are several entertaining beats, the film is ultimately a bit of a slog. Standout scene, the Iron Man vs. Whiplash Monaco battle. Rourke's brazen, slow-motion entrance onto the racetrack, dodging crashing cars as his overalls burn away to reveal his crackling energy whips, is as menacing as it is effortlessly cool. It's a smart move having Tony out of his supersuit for the majority of the fight, too, giving the scene a real sense of peril as Vanko lashes out ferociously. It's a technique that would be revisited in Iron Man 3. It's a real statement set piece that shows so much promise for the villain, even as he's dragged off, spitting blood and cackling maniacally. You lose. Which is why his subsequent benching feels like such a wasted opportunity. Best quip: "You guys look like two seals fighting over a grape." Rhodey hilariously spoils the moment for Tony and Pepper, Gwyneth Paltrow, as they share their first kiss. First appearances: Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow plays a small but key role here before her big breakout in The Avengers. Ditto Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, upgraded from end credits cameo to give Iron Man a bit of hero coaching. We also meet Tony's dad, Howard, played by Mad Men's John Slattery, in the flesh for the first time thanks to some archival Stark Industries recordings. And the late Gary Shandling's buffoonish, or is he? Senator Stern, who we'll be seeing more of in Phase 2. So long, farewell, it's hello goodbye to Mickey Rourke's Ivan Vanko, who blows himself up, Predator style, during the film's climax. And even though the fate of Sam Rockwell's smarmy Justin Hammer is left open, he hasn't popped up in the MCU since. I'm going to be seeing you again real soon, he tells Pepper as he's carted off by the authorities. No you aren't, mate. It's all connected, with Iron Man 2 more concerned with shared universe building than Iron Man or the Incredible Hulk. There are more overt MCU links here. Tony, my greatest creation is you. John Slattery makes his biggest MCU appearance here as the older Howard Stark, albeit through archive footage. But as one of the key figures in the formation of S.H.I.E.L.D., his legacy is felt through the entire series. He cameos in both Ant-Man and Captain America, Civil War, as well as, reportedly, the upcoming Avengers, Endgame, while the young Howard, played by Dominic Cooper, appears in Captain America, the First Avenger and the Agent Carter TV series. When Stark is working on creating a new element to power his internal arc reactor, he props up his makeshift particle accelerator with a half-built version of Captain America's shield, found among his dad's old possessions. Senator Stern, Gary Shandling, mostly serves as a sort of comedy punchbag for Stark in this film. However, his attempts to force Tony to turn over the Iron Man technology are later revealed to have a more sinister motive. In Captain America, the Winter Soldier, he's exposed as a covert member of Hydra. At the Armed Forces Senate hearing, Tony resolutely refuses to give up his Iron Man suit and fiercely defends his independence. Describing the suit as a high-tech prosthesis and describing working with the government is tantamount to servitude or prostitution. The events of Age of Ultron clearly change his mind though. He's the first Avenger to sign up to the Sokovia Accords in Captain America, Civil War. When Tony offers Pepper the job as CEO of Stark Industries, he tells her, "It's you. It's always been you." It's startlingly similar to the line in the Avengers Endgame trailer, where spacebound and down Stark records a message for his soulmate, "When I drift off, I will dream about you. It's always been you." Sobs. Black Widow's report on Stark's readiness to join the Avengers Initiative leads Fury to declare, "At this juncture, we'd only like to use you as a consultant." Hence Stark's mission to annoy General Ross into keeping Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination, behind bars rather than release him to join the Avengers. As requested by the World Security Council, seen in the post-credits scene of The Incredible Hulk and the Marvel one-shot, The Consultant. The nature of his involvement obviously changes by the time of Loki's invasion and the Avengers. Credit check. Agent Coulson, Clark Gregg, rocks up in New Mexico at what looks like a meteor crash site. "Sir, we've found it," he reports over the phone, as we see people crowding around Mjolnir, aka Thor's hammer. Cue the thunder. Venom, Let There Be Carnage review. Are you a fan of Iron Man 2, or does it miss the mark? Are there any other aspects of it that you like, don't like, or anything that we've missed? Let us know in the comments below.
No. 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 from me, you, the God, I am you, you get a from me, number, number, Please love and fiber.